Have you ever felt outnumbered? Like the odds were totally stacked against you? Well, today's story is about a man named Gideon who faced a huge army with just a handful of men and God's surprising strategy. The Midianites were terrorizing the Israelites. They were stealing their crops and making their lives miserable. The Israelites were desperate and cried out to God for help. God called Gideon, a humble farmer, to lead the Israelites. Gideon was unsure of himself. He didn't think he was strong or important. But God told Gideon, "Go. I am sending you." Gideon was still hesitant. He asked for a sign to prove that God was really calling him. Here are two options for Gideon. Option 1, Gideon asks for a fleece to be wet with dew while the ground is dry. Option 2, Gideon asks for the fleece to be dry while the ground is wet. God showed Gideon the sign he asked for. Gideon knew that God was truly with him. He gathered an army of 32,000 men. That sounds like a lot, right? But God told Gideon, "There are too many men. You have too many men for me to deliver the Midianites into your hands. If you have too many, Israel will boast against me, saying, 'My own strength has saved me.'" God instructed Gideon to send home everyone who was afraid. 22,000 men left. That left Gideon with only 10,000. But God said, "There are still too many." God then gave Gideon a strange test. He told him to take the men down to the water and observe how they drank. God told Gideon to keep only the men who lapped the water like a dog, using their tongues. Only 300 men remained. Why do you think God kept reducing the size of Gideon's army? Was it for him to show that victory comes from God, not human strength? To make the story more exciting? Or to save resources? God gave Gideon a very unusual battle plan. He told him to divide his 300 men into 3 groups and give each man a trumpet and an empty jar with a torch inside. At night, they surrounded the Midianite camp. On Gideon's signal, they blew their trumpets, smashed their jars, and held up their torches, shouting, "A sword for the Lord and for Gideon." The Midianites were terrified. They thought they were being attacked by a huge army. They panicked and started fighting each other. Gideon and his 300 men routed the Midianite army. God had given them a great victory, not through strength or numbers, but through faith and obedience.